Hi, this is Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and this is a recording made in 2009 in November by myself and Benjamin Murphy, who is a contactee and very likely a super soldier. And he has been put in touch with Duncan O'Finian, and it is very likely that he has a super soldier background that he is just beginning to uncover. At any rate, he is a contactee, and he was in touch with Heather and is responsible for bringing the Heather material to the public with the help of this person who calls herself Heather. At some point we thought that perhaps she had been killed in an auto accident, I think it was, but that's not the case from what I understood later. And at the moment, her whereabouts and whether or not she's alive is not clear. So there's been a great deal of controversy around this material. It was released by me back in a few months ago on the Project Camelot website as part of a revealing that happened as a result of an argument that happened between Bill Ryan, my partner in Camelot, and Benjamin Murphy as to whether or not the Heather material was authentic. Bill Ryan decided that Benjamin Murphy and the material was not authentic, and therefore he went onto the Avalon forum and began to basically out Benjamin Murphy and the Heather material, and to say that it was, I guess, a fake or planted or whatever. That's not my view, and at this time the jury is still out on whether this material is actually authentic. However, I think there's a great deal of value to it, and I am releasing this interview at this time with the permission of Benjamin Murphy, with some of the details that contain personal names and that sort of thing edited out. But for the most part, it is intact. And it was recorded, as I say, back in November, very early November of 2009. So I hope you enjoy it. I had a cold at the time, so my voice is extremely hoarse in some places and hard to probably listen to. And I apologize for that. The sound recording is also difficult. It was a recorded impromptu Skype phone call. But we both decided that we would record this preliminary interview simply because the Heather material was beginning to look very, very important. At this time, Heather has not come forward, and we do not know if she is still alive or not. And so I'm releasing this to the public at this time for your own edification, and you can decide whether or not you want to take it on board as containing some truth. One thing I can tell you for sure is that we have gotten validation on many of these points in regard to a race of robotic beings with superhuman abilities being created by not only the US government but also by the Chinese. So I encourage you to listen and hope you enjoy it. This is Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and this is Tuesday, April 6th, 2010.
And so you want to get the information out there because you knew the person, or because you have, I mean, what is your role in this situation? What do you have to do with it?
Well, myself, my own situation is rather unique to say, as in myself. I mean, this is my situation, her situation are very different, but I can see the correlation between the two. The fact of the matter is, she called us out of the blue, saying that she needed somewhere to go. She had contacted my wife's mother, my mother-in-law, my wife's mother, first to try and find out where we were, because originally she didn't know if all of a sudden it's, what, 2009, she hasn't seen this person in a very long time. She's like, can I come, can I meet with you? And so she met with her. I went and just to say hi, because I like to meet with my wife's friends, you know. And there was just an instant connection there. And she started talking to us about how she needed our help. She needed to get away from what she was into. What could she possibly do to, you know, what could we do to help her? The problem with us is we're really not in a position to help her like that. We're struggling ourselves. I've got my own problems with the US government, who just don't seem to like me very much. And at the moment, all the best we can do is, like, we're trying to keep her as safe as we can. We have a mutual friend who she's staying with at the moment. Now, of course, Heather's not a real name, hey, but I'm not going to give out her real name.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But she's, I can tell you, she's like very, very, very scared. I mean, paranoia-ish scared. So.
I mean, you're welcome to send the information to us. If it contains, I mean, basically what we're talking about is our black projects, creating human robots, right?
Yeah, that's basically what it entails.
Most of this information is not unfamiliar to us because of another one of our witnesses.
Gotcha.
But that person did say that, you know, that we weren't allowed to talk about that.
Yeah, there's, you know, I know that really that I shouldn't be talking about any of it, really. it's very, some of the information on the discs is just, you know, you wouldn't, I would have no idea that they were looking into this area or trying to go in this direction. But from what I gather from the information. Things like they're pulling away from the almost ESP side of the thing and just concentrating on the almost strength and physical aspects of the units.
Well, possibly. I mean, it's certainly one aspect of what they are working on.
They do seem to have a very invested interest in a pyrokinesis type group, though. There seems to be a very big emphasis on that for some reason.
Well, it's interesting. They're talking about these beings being able to take a man through a portal.
Yeah, that's that you know. Of course, I haven't witnessed any of this myself, but I am with my own situation. I am well aware of what there is and what there isn't. You know, that's what I'm saying. Her situation seemed to correlate with me in such a way that
Okay, well then.
I found to be rather disturbing.
Okay, well, what is your? That's why I was asking you what your relationship was. So, are you saying that you yourself worked in this area or something related?
No, actually, my experience has just been not abduction, but a visitation. Unfortunately, it's more than just myself, as in if what my friend calls our guides, which I can only describe as two greys, constantly coming into our lives and sharing things with us. And it's not just me, it's a whole group of people. My daughter sees them, my wife sees them, because I thought only I'd be able to see them first, so I kept it to myself, and it turns out I different colors. Some have yellow, some have green eyes. Their skin goes from a darkish gray to a light off-whitish gray to a normal human, like not a pink, but almost a leathery type of color, you know. Um, even though they look very leathery, their skin is not the texture you'd think it would be.
Okay, but are you saying, I mean, you're calling them reptilians, is this because of their facial features?
Yeah, they look reptilian. They look, yeah,
Do
they
look like
they
a
look completely
human?
reptilian.
Are they human combination?
No,
Or they're just straight up reptilian as far as you know?
they're sorry, they're straight up reptilian. The only human aspect is they're bipedal. That's the only human aspect that I see. But as soon as, and it's the same experience every time, as soon as I'm in contact with one, I cannot move, and it's almost as if my own feelings don't exist. I'm completely immersed in what that creature is feeling. It's thoughts and it's almost lack of emotion, but you know, it's hard to describe as emotion, but there's definitely something there. It takes over. You can definitely feel when they're frustrated, and they normally come up and just give me almost, they don't speak to you obviously, but they do speak to you through their head, mentally, and it hurts. It's like somebody hammering a chisel into your brain. It resonates within your head, and I honestly don't know what they're saying,
Uh-huh.
to be honest, because I don't understand what they're saying.
Okay.
And when I try and ask the two greys about this, and you'll have to also understand that the only person that I know who can speak to the two greys coherently and actually get something that isn't cryptic is my daughter. My daughter's 6 years old, and she's autistic. And I don't know, they seem to love her. They spend a lot of time with her. And she can understand, and she draws pictures. Now, recently, on the 4th of July, we went up to Georgia to see my wife's stepfather, and he was waving a gun in my face because she had told him that aliens protect her. Now, he's a strict Christian, and you can imagine he was very upset at this information, and it took us about 3 hours to say, look, okay, come on, she's autistic. Okay, put the gun down. And it was a nightmare. It was a horrific scenario, and at the moment, it's causing problems absolutely everywhere, you know?
Yeah, well, I can imagine. But this is a weird combination of information to go with the information you're sending me.
That I agree. That's why I was disturbed by the information itself at first, and I was like, well, Yeah.
But it has to be a black division of Merc.
Hmm.
So if we publish this, if we use the name Heather, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Like if you put the CD in your computer, are you able to upload files or not?
Yeah, I should be able to. You mean like over Skype? Just
Yeah.
send you the information from them?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I should be able to do that. I'm going to do. I'll do it from my brother-in-law's computer because, as I said, my my CD drive just broke. I mean, recently. I don't know why it happened.
Well, I mean, it's
just
completely up to you. Now you're welcome to also, mail it to. We have a mailing address on our site.
Gotcha.
Under contact, and that that is where we get mail. So, you could send it that way too. But if you send it through the mail before you upload files to us, then there's a possibility it could get intercepted and we never get it, depending on
Gotcha.
how hot and how true it really is.
Gotcha. I do have another piece of information. Heather says she has a skin sample. I haven't seen that. That's from one of the units, and she says she has that. But on a different subject, relating to my situation when my arm was broken, I actually have my own skin sample that I want to send somewhere.
What do you mean by that? I don't understand. You have a
I have.
sample.
Well, when the reptilian squeezed my arm and broke it, on the floor, a piece of his skin dropped off because he was shedding.
Okay.
I got it.
I see. Well, that's a trip. Okay. Well, I mean, offhand, I'm not sure. I have no idea what we would do with something like that. That's actually really weirded out. I think what you could do is, rather than send it to us, is take it to a doctor or a lab, have them analyze it first before it leaves your hands, so to speak. And,
Gotcha.
that way you would know if there was anything there, because unless there was something there that was unique, if I pick up a dead snake or, lizard or something, then I'm going to have that type of skin. And it may even be possible for us to try to raise money to pay for something like that. I mean, it sounds outrageous, but if there was something worth investigating, then we could put an announcement out and say, anyone wanting to contribute money to this effort. We could explain that we think we have a piece of, I don't know what you would call it, alien, reptilian.
Anomalous skin.
Yeah.
Anomalous organic material. I guess that's the best way to interpret it.
Okay, yeah. But as far as, what is your background in terms of what did you do for work?
Me? Nothing. Well, until I came to the U.S. Well, when I grew up, my father was in the Royal Navy. My grandfather was in the Royal Navy. Every member of my family, including my grandmother, was in the Navy. My dad was in the Navy. My mother stayed at home. She was the usual average, housewife. We were stationed in Hong Kong, Singapore, so I was like a naval brat moving around. I spent most of my time in Thailand. I trained to fight that was my profession. I was a fighter. And
What kind of a fighter?
Muay Thai, kickboxing.
I see. Was this in the Navy or as something else?
No, I was just an independent fighter. When I left school about the age of 15, and I stayed in Thailand. I had a bad experience in Hong Kong. I was going to school when I was an easy thing to work on the doors, and I applied at a casino. And they said, well, we don't have a doorman position, but you can train to become a croupier if you want. And so I did that until about 2000. And then I met my first wife, who was Indonesian, and she was just completely insane. She was lovely when I first met her, and then she just switched up on us. And so I ended up divorcing her. It was a very quick marriage. And then I met my now wife, and I've been here ever since. But the problem is the U.S. government keeps denying a visa. My wife's still a radiologist. She has a great job. She makes money, but they keep saying you're below the poverty line, below the poverty line. So I'm like, okay, I will go to the embassy, and I say, well, you know, if they're not granting me all this, is there anything in the history that might stop them from doing this? And they did the background checks, and they're like, no, everything's fine. So what I did was I have to keep getting a 2-year, what do they call it? It's a 2-year visa. You can apply from the embassy. It's like a permission.
Yeah.
So I get that, and that's how I work. And right now, I've recently had information that they're sending me my work permit again. So, because the last visa ran out last year, and I applied for the new one. They said, well, we're so backed up, you know, we've only got one person working in the office in Orange County. And I'm like, oh, we'll just playing the waiting game. But I actually received an email the other day from UCIS saying that they've approved finally my work visa, and they're going to send me that.
So have you been able to work without it?
On and off. I've done detailing jobs. I actually applied for a position within the INS because they are having issues with translators. They do want some translators, especially people who need to speak Chinese or are fluent in Chinese or Thai. So.
And you speak those languages?
Yes. So I thought.
Hasn't the U.S. government or British government tried to recruit you?
No.
Really?
No. I don't know why, but they haven't.
That's interesting.
But I've spent most of my time over here, so.
I'm sorry?
I've spent most of my time over here. Since I came over here and I stayed. And I've been very much under the radar, so to speak.
I see. Okay, well, so other than the reptilian thing, I mean, how did you find Project Camelot, and how did you learn about all this stuff? Like, how did you get involved in all of this?
Okay, right. Well, this is what happened. I was on my own up until about 2004, I was on my own, spiritual journey. I had no idea what was going on in the world. I was completely naive, and I even was going to people like Sylvia Brown for input and things like that. And I just had an amazing revelation what happened in 2005. We had a whole bunch of hurricanes, and the one that destroyed our life in Fort Lauderdale was Wilma, because we had an apartment. I was doing my bouncing thing at the Voodoo Lounge in Fort Lauderdale, and what happened was Hurricane Wilma came through, and she basically destroyed the apartment complex. Our apartment was fine. It had a little bit of water damage that came in from the door, but that was it. But FEMA came in and said, this whole complex is a disaster area. All of you guys have got to go. And that was everybody. They chucked everybody out. Families, babies, they didn't care. They said, you've all got to get out because this is a disaster area. You can't come back here until we approve it. And they ended up demolishing the entire complex, which was in Oakland Park apartments of Andrews. And so basically we had nowhere to go. It just, the hurricane had just hit. People were going to get meals because the army was issuing ration packs, and they were issuing meals to people. So many people were actually on the streets that time. I mean, it was nothing like Katrina, but it was pretty rough down there. So we ended up having to pay like $300 for a hotel that had no power for the best part of a month. And it literally took a month to put the electric on. And we were just trying to find an apartment. We were like, well, where else are we going to go? In the end, we just decided, well, it's not working down here. We need to go up north. So she could at least help us out and we could get back on our feet and get some stability. So we came up to Orlando. Now, when I was in Orlando, the first thing we did, and her husband just came into the room. He's like, hey, Ben, how you doing? I was coming. I'd never seen the guy before in my life, but he talked as if I'd known him for years. And he used to be a graphic designer, very good at art. And he has all this architecture on the wall. When you walk into his place, it's like an Egyptian palace because he's got all this Egyptian architecture. He's got this Egyptian sofa laid out. The place is beautiful. And he's got this weird writing all around. He's got a big symbol that says "Know Thyself," and he's got all this weird writing around it. I'm like, what is that? He's like, that's Akashic. I'm like, what? I didn't know anything about that. And I was like, okay, well, that's all very new age and good stuff. And he's like, he sat down with me, and towards the end of the night, he's like, I gotta tell you something. He's like, don't you know, they had, to get guys like you where you need to be, they have to send things like hurricanes. If we have pawns, we got to place them in the right points strategically. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you'll see what I'm talking about. And we left that night. Now, my mother-in-law doesn't like me because I'm white. My wife is black, and she can't stand me. So the wife and the kids stayed with the mother-in-law, and I slept in the car around the corner. And that was my first night I met John and James. It wasn't an actual physical meeting. It was just, I thought I was going crazy because it was
who's John and James?
I'm sorry. John and James are what I call the two Greys. That's the best way I can. That's my name for them.
Right.
So they're always in twos, and they just started telling me a story of how there used to be 5 of them. They always come in groups, and what happened was 3 of them were breaking away. Well, actually, all 5 of them were breaking away from what they'd been a part of. They've never told me what they've been a part of, but they said they were getting away from it. And the 3 that were trying to get away, they said they were in a vessel. There was some device on the vessel, and they said, this is what they told John and James because they were in connection at the time. that they picked up a person who was looking at them, and that can only I can think to be a remote viewer, because the person was telling them that they were going to try and help them, but before the person could help them, the device went off and the 3, so the 5 became 2.
I'm sorry, you broke up when you said that. You said the device went up and what happened?
The device went off in the ship they were on, and the three gray beings died.
Okay.
So the 5 became 2.
And this is a story that that John and James Grays told you.
Yes.
Okay.
This was the first thing they ever said to me. I thought I was going completely insane.
Okay, and how did you see them? You actually saw their physicality?
No, I don't. I only felt them speaking to me. I felt very calm. I didn't feel any love or anything like that. I just felt...
Were you in your car at the time?
Yes, I was in my car.
I see.
And this was the first night. Now, it went on like that for a few nights, and then eventually what happened was I went to sleep and I woke up and there they were. I remember because the first time I saw them, I sat so far upright because this was a Toyota Corolla. I'm slightly taller than the car. I smacked my head on the roof of the car, and I'm like, oh. And I looked, and they were still there. I was expecting myself to wake up because I'd seen the same thing in Fort Lauderdale. I woke up one night in the apartment in Oakland Park to see them stood there, and I screamed. I screamed like a girl. And my wife she was laid next to me, and she said she heard me, but she didn't move because she was scared. And this time, when I banged my head, I thought, okay, it was just a dream again. When I looked, they were still there, just looking at me.
Okay, were they outside the car?
Yeah, they were outside the car.
Was it dark or light?
Oh yeah, it was very dark.
Okay.
But the moon was out. The moon seemed to have enough light so I could see them. And ever since then, they've just been showing up night times. They never showed up in the daytime. It's always at night. We went round to visit Christmas, and they showed up there at night time. Something crashed in the kitchen, so we went out, and there they were. And then I thought, okay, that's the usual. No one else is going to see them. They're just going to be there when we're going to communicate. But that wasn't the case, because one came in, and he's an island guy, and he was just like, hey, it's cool. I'm like, I have already spoke to them. And he's like, well, okay, well, if you guys are already speaking, then, we can start to do some work. And then his wife came in. His wife had already seen them as well. And his son sees them as well. And now they start showing up where I am, wherever we go at night. They'll come and they'll visit. And the only person who has not seen them is my 15-year-old. She's my stepdaughter. But that's only because she's not here some nights. Most of the nights, she's with her father.
Okay, but the little girl that's autistic sees them.
Oh, she sees them, she draws them, she paints them, she won't stop talking about them. And most importantly, she can understand what they say. The problem with talking to them, if you speak to them, is you get a barrage, because they already know what you're going to ask, and so they've already answered the question, and so you get very confused. Sometimes you have to take a step back, and the conversations with them can be fast but slow, if you know what I mean, because you've got to think, okay, well, that's what I was saying. They've already answered another question.
So in essence,
so you've got to try and keep up.
I understand. In essence, they're not abducting you or your family. They're just visiting you.
We've never been abducted. Never been abducted. To my knowledge, never been abducted.
Right.
But I've never lost time. I've never lost time either. And
why? Okay, what are they telling you? Like, do you know, or what information? Like, what is it useful in any way? Is there anything interesting about it?
The information is the first part of the information was they started telling me about themselves, where they were from. They never say what they're here to do. They just said that they're here, we have to accept that. But they do say that they're not from the planets that we believe they're from. They say that they've been here all along. And they say that they were created. I don't believe that they were created by the US government. Their perception of their being and where they're from is they've always been here.
Did it
But
work?
the photographs never come out properly.
Okay, and the drawings of your little girl, are you able to send
Yes.
any of those to me?
Yeah, sure.
And would you mind if we published them?
Yeah, that's fine. I will. I'll put them on to the computer today. I don't have a scanner, so I'll have to take a picture. Is that okay?
Yeah, whatever you want to
With the
do.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I can obviously you can tell me if you want me to publish this story as well, as part of the Heather thing, or as a separate, completely separate. In other words, we don't have to draw any kind of connection between you and the Heather material, if you like.
Yeah, I'd prefer if it was separate, if that's okay.
And you can give me whatever false name you'd like us to use.
Okay. I mean, That's fine. My name's fine. I don't, you know,
You don't mind
I
if
have
the
no,
story gets out
yeah,
there about yourself?
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Um, as I said, my main concern is my daughter and both my daughters, and what, as I said, I don't want one of these things identifying itself um, to her. But
Well,
John and James have assured me that that won't happen.
okay, and how? But when you say this, the reptilian identifies itself. That's an interesting way of wording for for whatever it is they're doing. Where did you get that concept?
Because that's what John and James told me. I said, what are they saying to me? I'm like, they come up to me, they grab a hold of me, they look at me up and down, they've sniffed me a few times, and they just start rattling off stuff. I can't comprehend it. I don't know what they're saying. I don't speak their language. Linguistically, it just seems like absolute gibberish, but I asked them, I said, well, what are they saying? What are they doing? They're saying they're giving you their ID and they're telling you who they are. I'm like, okay, that's lovely. Why? They said, well, because if anybody comes in contact with us, and legitimate contact with species that have been on the circuit like they have before they left, then the normal etiquette is to come up and tell people who they are. And it happens with greys, it happens with many different extraterrestrial forms. It's just part of the norm.
Okay.
And they said normally, unfortunately, contact with them usually also encourages it. So if something's passing, they're going to pick up on the residual energy of the contact, and they're going to come into contact and they're going to say, hey, we're just passing, this is us. You know, we're friendly, we're hostile, or just identifying what they are, who they are.
Okay, so why
and then they move on.
Do the Greys tell you why the reptilians showed up and what their purpose is?
They say that John and James tell me that the reptilians were placed here because, well, I shouldn't say placed here. They came here originally because this was almost like a penal colony for them. When they came here, we weren't around. They were some of the original inhabitants, but they were very few. There's still very few. There aren't that many of them around. They're not limited to, from what I'm told, to about 5,000. That few. But because of their interdimensional, if you want to put it that way, capabilities, they can be in as many places as they want to be at one time. And unfortunately, I'm not a techie. I have no concept of the technical aspects of any of the technology they use.
Okay.
That's above me. That's over my head.
But why did they come? Why did they? First of all, you see them physically. You're saying that they're not being interdimensional when you're seeing them. They're actually physical, right? Is that right? Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And so, how did that happen? And why? And again, why? Why? Do you know?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'll give you a demonstration of what I've seen them do. Now, when they've come in contact with me, they've come through. I haven't seen them come through a portal, but I've seen them come through, and they've looked like glass. They've looked almost see-through, and that's when they've come into form, and they've told me who they are, and then they leave. And they leave the same way. They turn like a blue, a purple, or almost invisible, and then they disappear. So I guess that's how they use their portals. That's my suggestion.
How did they emerge the first time, for example?
The first time caught me completely off guard, and it just I saw it. It was stood under a tree, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just I just thought it was a guy because it was very dark. I didn't see what it was. And then I was by a lake at the time, and I looked at the lake. When I looked back, it was on top of me. It seemed to have moved between the tree and me in a very short period of time. I didn't hear it walking. It seemed to almost like glide towards me. I mean, very majestic. And the first impression that I got that it was on top of me was I realized that I wasn't in control of myself. I couldn't move, and I had this oversensing image of power. I felt powerful. I felt egotistical. I felt superior. Just, I can't even put it into words. Like, you really can't describe the feeling. And then when I looked at this thing, I realized that I couldn't feel any fear because that had gone. I'd been completely overtaken by its emotional, its mental status. It basically pile drive me into non-existence. And that's when it identified itself. And as it backed away, that's when I felt my heart rate starting to beat really fast, and the fear and adrenaline started surging to my body. And only after it left, that's when I was terrified.
Okay.
Okay?
And so how many times have you seen this? Is it the same one, do you think?
I'm sorry, you broke up there. Can you repeat that, please?
How many times have you seen this creature? Is it the same creature?
I'm sorry. I do apologize. Skype's really playing with me. Can you say that one more time?
Okay. How many times have you seen this? How many times? Can you hear me? Hello?
It's still breaking up. I hear how many times, so I assume it's saying how many times have I had reptilian encounters?
Yes.
Over 50.
Okay, and okay, is it the same reptilian? I put in the chat. Look in the chat. Look in the chat.
No, okay, I got you. No, it's not the same. It's never the same reptilian. Well, one might have been. No, they're very much different. The reason why I know they're different is that the outward appearance on most of them varies a great amount. They're almost like fingerprints. One never seems to be the same. I've only ever seen one that had little horns on him around his head, and that was just one. And some have little crests in weird places or nodules, and some don't. The eyes also vary. They're not the same. Different colors. They all usually have the same pupil like slit, but I've seen some with very round pupils as well. So, but they're all pretty tall. They're all bulky. They're not. None of them seem to be sleek. I don't know if I've seen any females, or I cannot distinguish publish it. I'm like, okay. Cheers, Dave.
Okay.
But
Well, did you tell this guy, Devon? Is that how you say his name?
yes.
And again, you should tell me, whether or not you want this. Like, what we can do with this thing that we're doing right here is transcribe it, and then separate out the discussion about the Heather material and create you as a witness under your own name or under a false name, and put your story out there because it's sufficiently interesting.
Okay.
Not so much about the grays, although the gray part is a little unusual the way you're framing it. But the reptilian side is much more interesting because we happen to be going down that road right now.
I understand everybody. There are a lot of people with grey that have been contacted. So and
but
they've told us that.
But in terms of what we would do is transcribe it. In other words, put it in writing. So we wouldn't necessarily release this. If you want to call it this discussion or interview, whatever you want to call it, we wouldn't release this unless you wanted us to. But what we would do is transcribe it into writing, and then put it out there as a document, as your experiences, for people to sort of see what might be going on here.
Yeah. To be honest, it would be whatever better helps you guys out. I'm pretty easy on that. If you guys want to use this discussion / interview, that's fine. If you guys want to transcribe it, that's fine. I just I just got to be hesitant with the Heather stuff because I don't know how deep or far or how dangerous that information is.
Yeah, well, I would say it's very dangerous. So I would, I would separate you out from that because there's no obvious relationship between what you're telling me and the Heather material.
That's right. That's what that's the thing. The only connection that I've seen there is that her description of the reptilian type beings that she has seen.
Okay, I don't think that's in what you sent me so far.
Ah, really?
Yeah, I mean, you just pasted something in the chat here.
Oh, okay. They were talking about Project. Did I send you anything to do with Project Trident?
Yeah, and well, it says Project Damocles.
Okay, I'll have to send you some more stuff on that. Yeah, so that I'll do that. I'll send you some more information on that because I don't mind. I don't mind saying that she said that they had people that were being taken through the portals.
Okay, yeah, I see that, but I guess I'm looking over it, and I don't think anywhere in here. My understanding was it was more of a robotic being that was doing that, and now you're indicating. And this project, she's calling it back to Trident. These creatures would take a man through a portal. So maybe it's just excerpted. And prior to that, she explained that the creature, she didn't talk. There's nothing that says anything about reptilian prior to that. What it talks about prior to that is what sounds like a robotic, human.
Yeah, see, the information that I have here, I don't know if I can... I've already sent it to you in text, so it should be fine to just say, right? Is that what she said it was reptilian beings, and her description were very similar to my descriptions, where they would have people go through, and the reptilian beings would then pull them out if it didn't go well. Unfortunately, apparently it's not gone well any of the times. They've had people go through with hazmat suits or special suits because there's something to do with the freezing process. And they said that they can freeze people and bring them back, but they can't freeze people and keep them in animation, which is what they need when they go into this dimension.
Okay.
It's
Well,
something,
it
to do,
says
something to do with the blood boiling.
it's talking about Project Phoenix being designed to integrate human tissue with biorobotic material. So that must be one thing. And then,
Yeah,
and then again, she talks about omega-3. So maybe she's just talking about several different programs here. Omega-3 having to do with
yeah.
human soldier.
I'm sorry. I've got to keep. I got to keep track because there's like 3 or 4 different programs that she has and she's stolen data on, and one of them discusses the problems that they're having, even with the units that go through this dimensional rift or whatever it is, and they have a problem with things overheating when they're over there. The reptilians or whatever they are don't have this problem, but when a human being comes back, they're usually cooked, microwaved from the inside out. So they said they'd solve the problem because they can, if they put somebody into cryogenics, they can put them through and bring them back with no problem, but they can't put them somewhat cryptic in some regards. I mean, the information on themselves is all good, but if I ask them a question, I'm not allowed to ask any questions about my future. I'm not allowed to ask anything that I might be able to impact or change. They don't want me changing anything that I would do. They don't want me thinking outside the box, as in, if I know something's going to happen, I might change what I do on that day.
Right.
They want me to just go on the path that I am. And they said the way they do this also, deja vu. People they use deja vu to help people continue the right path they're doing. If you have deja vu, they say that you're usually on the right path.
Well, deja vu usually gives you a glimpse of the future before it happens. Because usually what happens during a deja vu is that the future, or what was the future, will be happening. You will realize that you'd actually seen it before.
That's right. That's right.
And are you saying that you have this?
Yes, I have deja vu quite a lot.
Okay. But do you get it do you ever get it ahead of time?
Yes. Yes, there have been times when I've had it ahead of time.
Okay.
But
to get back...
But in little instances... I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, just in little instances, as if, I'll know that if my wife's coming around the corner, or I'll be wondering what the time is, and I already know what the time is, even though before I've looked at it. Or instances of, just little things like that, like, when you've done this before, or you have a conversation with somebody and you already know what they're going to say.
Yeah.
Usually, just very frequent.
So, but this guy, Devon, who said you were being put into position, was this a reference to something that's going to happen in the future?
Yes, he said it was, and I asked him what it was. He says he can't tell me that. I'm like, well, why can't you tell me that? You're not them. He's like, yes, but he's got his own path. He said, I've got my own set of rules to follow. Now, Devon's a very interesting guy. He actually has a brand. It's not a tattoo. He's got a brand on his eye, and it's a triangle. Actually, if you on your eye, if you move it to the temple, that's where he's got a brand.
Okay, where did he get it?
And because I always ask him, well, where did you get that? And he said it's spiritual. He never tells me where he gets it.
I see.
But it was a...
And is he associated with the military in any way?
No, but his brother is. His brother's in Iraq at the moment.
I see. Okay, do you have any dreams in which you are involved in the military?
No. I do have a lot of dreams, though. Unfortunately, my dreams, I just believe they're fear dreams. At least I hope they do. I've had lots of dreams of nuclear explosions recently. And one dream that just reoccurs, and it really upsets me. And I'm on like a porch upstairs, and so we see something fly down into the ground, and nothing happens. So we go and turn on the TV to see what happens, and see if there's any reports on the news, and there's nothing. And when I go back out, I see fire engines and people all going towards the place, and then that's when it goes off. You're never caught in the initial explosion. You just see the big cloud, and then the blast wave comes towards you, and that's usually when I wake up, and I'm really, really upset about that, because I don't care if it's here or anywhere. That's the last thing that I want to know or see or think about even happening to me. And I've spoken to them about that, and they won't answer me. They won't tell me. They won't tell me anything about that. They just mention the same thing. They say, your container is safe.
And are you aware of, like, when you see this, you said it's repetitive dream, are you seeing it happen in a certain place, or are you not aware of where it is?
No, the place actually changes. One time it felt like it was in Paris. I don't know why, but I had the distinct feeling it was in Paris.
Have you been to Paris?
Another time I was almost like in a desert, but I'm always up high on somewhere where there's a balcony. I don't know why, but the location changes from dream to dream. Only twice have I had the same dream, and that was in a place in the desert. Where it was like the desert. It was very dusty, you know.
Are they places you have been physically before, or not?
No, places I've never seen before.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else you want to tell me about your side of it? And then I'll ask you a few more things about the Heather side.
Well, we've covered a large part of it. Yes, John and James, I can speak a bit about John and James. They don't seem to have any emotion. They're very emotion free. Now, it doesn't mean they don't have it, but they're very in control of it if they do have it. They're very humorous. I'm a humorful guy. I like to joke, and I believe me, I've tried to joke with them, you know, and it just doesn't work. But they seem to be very serious. They're on a mission, no doubt, and they remain focused at all times. I don't know why, but my daughter, they seem to make my daughter laugh. She has great fun with them, and she's in the autistic spectrum, so she does talk to people. She talks to people. She does maintain eye contact, but if you ask her about it, she'll explain it. She'll say, yeah, you know, this is what happened. This is John and James. This is what they look like. You know, she'll explain how they scared at her at first, but then, you know, she got to know them, so they aren't strangers. So.
Okay. Did you watch the video with Duncan O'Finian?
Yes, I did.
Did it affect you in any way?
Yeah, it did. As soon as I saw Duncan, my first initial time I saw Duncan, I actually said to my wife, I said, "There's a guy I'd like to fight." Going back to my old fighting days, and just that was my first opinion of him. But the more I got to see his videos, the more just everything that he said seemed to resonate with me, and I just, you know, I understood a lot of what he was saying. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I do actually. Duncan's quite psychic. I might try to put you in touch with him if you're interested.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Go ahead.
I did. I don't know if he goes onto the Avalon forum at all anymore, because I do. I recently joined up with the Avalon forum just to meet some of the people and see if there was anybody there I could just speak to, you know, and just share some experiences with.
I don't know if he does anymore. I don't know if he has anything to do with that, but like I said, I can probably put you in touch. Because I don't know why exactly, but for some reason when you're describing yourself and your background, you sound like somebody Duncan might know, to be honest. And I don't know why that, you know, I do have, you know, sometimes I'm psychic, so it could be something to do with that, or it could just be, you know, some kind of connection there.
Gotcha. Yeah, we might have met aboard sometime. There is something I'm not going to lie, there is something very familiar about him the first time I met him. But, you know, I get that with people, and I'm not psychic in any way at all. I'm a psychic person, but I do have the ability, if I see a face, I don't forget it. Not even if it's, that's like a curse, because I could see someone on the bus in, a year ago, and I'll see them in the shopping centre, and I'll be like, oh, I know you, and I'll think about it and think about, yeah, I know who that is, and then that's when it'll ring. That's when I'll place it. I'll be like, okay, that's somebody I saw on the bus a few years ago.
Okay, well, that's quite a talent. Okay, in terms of the Heather material, is there anything there that I guess that she told you and your wife that you want to relate about that material or about what you know? Because, like, just in case something comes along and that's all you're able to give me, are you able to give me any other information about that at this time?
Well, the only thing that I know is the bits that I've been reading, because it's a lot of material to go through. It's. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking, because I'm thinking we've got a laptop, but it's like really old, but I could put it on that and send it that way. But it's a lot of information to get through, and mostly what I've been reading on at the moment is a pyrokinetic unit that they're trying to specifically put together. Apparently they were running tests last year. They had a lot of the forest fires around, and those weren't actually natural forest fires. Those were specific tests that had been laid out in places like California, and they're still having fires today, right?
Well, I don't know. It happens on a fairly regular basis around California.
Yeah, I know there was some recent.
Okay, so you're saying that could it be easily caused by these tests they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, when it comes to Heather's information, all I have are the CDs at hand and the testimony of a very, very scared young lady, and she's terrified. Well, I say young lady, she's a lady, and she's very, very scared. I mean,
well, how do you do you happen to know how she got involved in this?
Yeah, she's always she always wanted to go into physics, and she was always very scientific. According to my wife, now you have to understand, she knew my wife before she knew me when they went to school together, and she joined the military because she wanted to help develop things within the military. From where she went in there, she's got her background on paper. I just listen to her story and listen to her and speak to her. I don't really get too much involved in her past. As I told her, I said, look, we've got the information, and my wife knows more about her. She can talk to you a lot more about Heather than I can, because she knows more about her. I don't know too much about her past like that. I just know the initial stuff. She joined the military. She always wanted to be a scientist or a physicist, and that's it. That's it.
So presumably she achieved some degree of what she wanted to do, because it appears that she was working in a very sophisticated black program. Do you know what job she had?
She said she was lead specifications officer. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
But she's still got a clearance. She showed her all our documentation. So she has all her documentation. Whether she'd be willing to give you guys a sample of that, I'd have to ask her.
What is her level of clearance that you saw?
I don't know idea. I don't know what level of clearance it was. She just showed us the documentation, and she had her little passcode with 3 red stripes on it, and it had a barcode on the front, barcode on the back, and it also had a thing where you put your thumb. And she still has that. She's got all of her equipment with her. So, as I said, I'll ask her and hope hopefully I can just send you like a picture of it. It doesn't matter what you want to do with it, just so you can see it for yourself. Um, as I said, all we got to go on with her is what she said. But she did take us out to where the building is, and the building's there. You got all these houses where people live in around it, where the old airbase used to be, and you have this one abandoned, big, like a sticking out like a sore thumb, really ugly building where you can definitely see that there's something below it because all the houses are around it, not on top of it.
And this is in Florida, I take it.
Yeah, this is in Orlando. This is in Winter Park because there used to be quite a big Air Force base there, but it closed down about 15 years ago. And now they've got it. They've got this big building, and there's nothing around it. Obviously, Florida, especially Orlando, is like a sponge. So you couldn't build buildings on where this base was. So all around it, you've got this vacant land and houses all around it, like a big circle, and it just sticks out like a sore thumb. Everyone always drives past and asks, "Well, why is that building still standing? Why didn't they just demolish it?" They demolished every other building except for this one.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
I even looked into it with the council, and the council said, well, because the building was so old, they were worried about the possibility of disease underneath it because it was such an old building. Well, it
Did
can't
she
be
talk
that old.
about did she talk about working in an underground base?
Yes. Yes, that's where the building goes to. But you go into the building, and the building goes down into the base.
Okay, and did she talk about how many floors down she would go or anything like that?
She says there was 3 floors, and she was working on the 2nd floor. She never got to us on the 3rd floor, and she said it was very much standard procedure on the 1st floor, which was offices, just general paperwork and stuff.
Okay.
So she has no idea on the 3rd floor.
Okay, well, this is all very interesting. I appreciate that you came forward and that you want to talk about both your own information and this, and that you're connecting us with Heather. We're happy to talk to her directly if she wants to, but I understand that she's in hiding. Maybe she just wants the information to, get out there. If you want to send us, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. I said I'd like that. I'd like for her to talk to you directly because she, she's a lot more coherent than I am, and she can, I guess, put it into better words. I mean, she's experienced it. As I said to her, I said, look, you're already in hiding. They already know you've left. You're already, out there. incredible information. So I just wanted to speak to him, and just, I don't give out any information as where I am, but some of the things that he was coming out with, just, I don't like, I'll say my stories, my experience is very, it could seem crazy to the average person, but, I'm willing to take anybody's information and take it on. If they say that's that, then, everybody has an experience that comes from somewhere. But this guy was just gone. He was done.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, yeah, so people, like I said, will come out of the woodwork. So you just need to really be sure that you want us to publish this stuff in your name. And the other thing is, like I have you on Skype, so I don't know if I have any emails from you. Did you also send the emails?
Yes. My email address, I never put my own email address. I always put my alias. So.
Okay. Thank you so much, and we'll talk again, okay?
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for listening.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself.
Okay, thank you, and you too, because I understand also there's a lot of problems going on. I heard what happened to Miriam Dalcado.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, she's
So,
better now, but yeah, there's all kind of craziness going on out there.
yeah. All right. Well, anyway, you take care, and hope you feel much better anyway.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
I'll talk soon,
Bye-bye.
okay? Bye-bye.
Okay.